I think, as you know, my name is Graham Niven. I am married to the lovely Sandra, who's down there, with our eldest daughter, Hannah, which is nice. And Sandra had encephalitis 22 years ago, and we've been coming to the society ever since. 21 years we've been coming here, and it's been fantastic. And what I want to do is tell you what happened to Sandra, how it affected us, and I'll be honest, some of the things that we've learned over the last 22 years. Hopefully it might help some of the people who've had encephalitis not so long ago, and hopefully give you something like, for us, we know there is life after encephalitis, which could be a good name for a book, if anyone's thinking of writing a book to that effect. But there is, for us, that there has been that life after encephalitis, and hopefully there will be for you too. So, our story. Now, we were in a bar last night with some other encephalitis people, and there is a music quiz on. So, seeing as it's quiz time, it was the 16th of December, that day I'll always remember. Does anyone know what song that's from? It's not that song. No. Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Thank you very much. Yeah. So anyway, it was the 16th of December. I'd been away, I'd been working away. I work for myself now, but I used to work for someone else. I'd been away, got back, and Sandra had flu before I went away. Well, women flu, you know what I mean, lads. And I thought she'd be a bit better when she got back, but she wasn't. She was worse. She had still the same flu symptoms, a blinding headache, and a cold sores had come out. Anyway, we got the girls to bed. We went to bed. And I thought I wanted to make this very pictorial, so I thought I'd do a bedroom scene. So I Google imaged man and woman in bed. Obviously, I couldn't show those, but I found this one. And it's fair to say Sandra doesn't always wear a bonnet in bed, but she did then. Anyway, about, I don't know, early hours of the morning, I suddenly felt this violent kicking. And although I'd been away for a bit, I'm sure it wasn't foreplay. And it was actually, Sandra was having a fit and called the ambulance. Whilst the ambulance came, I got Sandra's sister to come down and look after the girls. And we went down to what is called Hope Hospital. And it's such a lovely name for a hospital, Hope. It's an area in Salford where we live. And they've renamed it Salford Royal, but we call it Hope because it's such a great hospital. And it's sometime, although I never saw this, sometime that morning, a doctor diagnosed viral encephalitis and gave this drug acyclovir. Some of you may be aware of it. Despite this, Sandra continued to go downhill, and after a week, on Christmas Eve, it was 97, Sandra went into intensive care. This is not a picture of her. We didn't have mobile phones with lots of flashy cameras then, and I'm not sure I'd taken a photograph anyway. Anyway, she went in, and this is when they said, we'd like a word. In this small room at the side. And I think for any of you who've been through this situation with a loved one and they want a word, you're a bit worried. I was even more worried when this is what I saw. Because in this side room is all this alcohol. Because when people surviving intensive care, they send alcohol in for the doctors and nurses at Christmas. And so we went into this room and it was just like an off-licence. Anyway, they said what they were going to do was just a tracheotomy and put her in a coma, do a tracheotomy, breathe through her throat. And to be honest, that's when things started to get better. And after about 4 days, she came out, and I got another side talk saying, we think she's going to live, but we don't know how she's going to be mentally, we don't know how she's going to be physically, we don't know how she's going to be emotionally. But you don't hear that. You hear those words, but all you hear is, we think she's going to live. And she did. And she came out in the February. And clearly there have been some side effects. So these are the bad bits, okay? Sandra has epilepsy, she has tiredness, she has tremors, memory problems, and what I call, since I've been doing this, Sandra's dark place. So I'm going to go through those just to explain. Epilepsy. Sandra doesn't have fits, she has absences. So she'd be talking, I had one this morning in bed, and it was just very slight loss of consciousness. I seem to move towards her, although obviously I'm not. And they make her tired, and she also has 20 tablets a day, which also make her tired. And she also has a thing called a vagal nerve stimulator. I don't know if anyone here has epilepsy, but it's like a battery. It's in her chest here, and it has wires that go up a vagal nerve to a vagal nerve, and send a pulse to her brain every 5 minutes for 7 seconds. And when it does go off, and if you talk to Sandra today, you'll see this. It has have what she calls her sexy voice, which if hoarse and squeaky is sexy, then it certainly is sexy. Tiredness. There are many days when Sandra comes downstairs, and she's just like that. She's bright, she's bubbly, she's got dressed, she looks really nice. Sometimes she's got a kit bag ready to go to the gym, sometimes she's going shopping. She gets the bran flakes, she watches 20 minutes of Homes Under the Hammer, and then the shutters come down. And seriously, it's just like that. There's no rhyme or reason for it. It's not epilepsy, it's nothing like that. It's just this wave of tiredness comes over her, and she just can't do anything, and she hates it. She absolutely hates it. Tremors. Sandra has had shaky hands since she was ill. She can't write very well now. She can't hold a cup of tea with one hand. Even worse, she can't hold a glass of wine with one hand, which when you're having canapes makes it difficult. And she is on tablets for that, which also make her tired. But the worst thing from my point of view about Sandra's encephalitis is memory problems. Now, when they sewed up Sandra's tracheotomy and we realised she could speak, and when Hannah taught her how to speak again, it became obvious she didn't know who I was, she didn't know my name, didn't know the girls' names, didn't know they were in a relationship, didn't know that we lived together, etc. Whereas a memory of 20 years before, in the 70s, she could name a French teacher from 1978, she could sing songs by Leo Sayer from the 1970s, which you don't really want to know. Not a great voice. Sandra's current memory is okay. It's not fantastic, so tomorrow she won't forget today, or next week she won't, or next month she won't. But we do take lots of photographs, and certainly if you talk to Sandra and I see you talking to her, I'll take a photograph, because I put together an album at the end of the year, sort of talking about the year and what's gone on. But I have to say the worst thing, the thing that's been most difficult, is the children, and that is Hannah. When she was Hannah was born. We only do things at Christmas, by the way. Hannah was born on the 20th of December. 4 weeks early, she was £5.9, and Sandra hates the fact that she doesn't remember that. This is Leah. Leah was born on Christmas Day, 1995. She was £1.7. She was born at 26 weeks. But she was born along with her two brothers, Connor and Robbie, and unfortunately they died. Connor died in the Boxing Day, and Robbie died in the April. And I know a lot of people would say, well, it's good that you don't remember childbirth. Evidently, it hurts a little bit, and it's good that you don't remember the deaths. But Sandra would just love to remember having had children. And I for all mothers here, I'm sure it's one of those things that it just means so much. And if I could give Sandra one memory back, that would be it. And for all those reasons, there has come a time. It happened about 10 years after Sandra was ill. And I call it Sandra's dark place because she used to go into the front room and she'd turn the light out and she'd put the music on dead loud and she'd persevere with her wine drinking and try and hold it like that. And it was a hard time. She just felt worthless. She didn't feel like she was coping very well, and really questioned why she was here. But we talked. She talked to Ava a lot, and that was fantastic help. She got counselling, and there have been episodes since. And to be honest, we're sort of going through one at the minute. But as a result of that counselling, we know we will get through it. But nevertheless, it's something I suppose we weren't expecting 10 years after she was ill, and it's something I don't expect. When it happens, you think, here we go again, but we know we'll get through it. Anyway, I'm a very much a half-pint, half-full guy, so I want to talk about the good bits, because there are some good bits. The good thing is she fell in love with me again, and that was nice. And we started again, and we went out. I mean, she had to live somewhere, so she had to live with me. So, yeah, I suppose it was better the devil you know, or not know, in that case. And I'd actually asked Sandra to marry me in the October before she was ill in the December, and she'd said yes. So I told her this, and she said, well, I don't remember, so if you're not asking me again, then I'm not going to get married to you. And so I asked her again, and we got married in July 99, says he, really quickly. And it was great, and the girls were bridesmaids. It was fantastic. Although I said Sandra has these dark times, this is the sort of photograph I take of Sandra all the time. This is, because she's always smiling and always happy. And this is her cheating in the amusement arcade at Llandudno Pier by somehow getting her coat caught in the goal area, which meant I couldn't score. There are so many photographs like this with two people who she doesn't know, And this was in Edinburgh after the last one, whenever it was, last year, the Mind, Brain and Me thing last year. We went out afterwards, we met two girls in a bar, they were Australian, and we just became instant friends. And that is Sandra, because she doesn't know whether she knows people, so everyone's a potential friend. And I'll be honest, it's lovely. I'm much more reserved, but Sandra isn't. Our girls, right, they've been fantastic. And this is Hannah. She is here. Hannah takes on, I think, Sandra's caring side. Hannah cares about everybody, particularly about her mum, but about everybody. And this is her in Ghana. I'm not sure how many years, 5, 6, 7 years ago, volunteering at an orphanage. And I'll be honest, she's been such a support to us, and particularly me. I mean, I always think I don't need much support, but I do. I kid on, I don't, but I do. And this is our surviving triplet. This is Leah. This is her. She is very much Sandra's other side of her character, the sort of fun-loving, life's absolutely wonderful. This is her drinking very bad but very cheap wine called Goon. If you've ever been to Australia and drink Goon, that's what she's drinking. And she's just a party animal. And this is us. It's not been easy. I'd be lying if I said it'd been easy, because it hasn't been easy. But generally, we've always been able to get over. There have been some really deep downtimes, but we've got over those, and we talk a lot, and we just work through it because we know that together we're better than not being together. I think that's the main thing. And the other thing, and I'm not saying it's directly related to the encephalitis, but I think it's fair to say that both Sandra's hairstyle and my dress sense have got considerably better over the last 22 years. I've got 2 more slides, and then I'll finish. These are things we've learned. And I just wanted, because 22 years is a long time, and I know there's people here, we were out with some people last night, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. These are things we've learned. I don't know whether it'll work for you, but I'm not even sure it's worked for us, but these are things we've learned. It would help if I could read. Oh, yeah. Youth Society. Yeah, I should know these off the top of my head. They are brilliant. Seriously, I have no idea where we would be without the society. We have been supported so many times and in so many ways over the last 22 years. And things like this make such a difference. Such a difference. Talk to people who've had encephalitis. We were out last night with some people who had encephalitis, and it just, we drove back, and Sandra's sort of happiness level had gone from here to up here last night, just because she was talking to other people who had encephalitis. And it does make a difference. And I'll be honest, it makes a difference to me to talk to people who are the loved ones of those. So it does matter. If memory is an issue, then take photos. I don't know whether it is, it's not. Again, I do it. I take loads and loads of photos, because although Sandra, even with photos, won't always remember, sometimes she does. And if she does, then that's what matters to me. If needed, try counselling. I'll be honest, we never thought we needed it. And I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but I think it's something that if you are struggling, I would look into. And I'll be honest, Sandra's got a counsellor coming on Tuesday night. So, don't forget other family members; they hurt too. Yeah, I think our girls are great, and I think that they always say, "Oh, we're fine, Dad. We're fine. Everything's fine." But Hannah had lost her 2 brothers by the time she was 5, and her mum had been seriously ill, and it did take a toll. And I think it's so easy to focus on one person. You need to focus on your other family members too. There may come a time you need to ease back. Yeah, this was to do with, I found I was doing an awful lot for Sandra, which you would, but there did come a time where I think, I'm doing this, no, don't bother, I'll do that. And she just ends up sitting there doing nothing. And it wasn't the right thing to do, and I think we talked about it, and now Sandra does loads of things. It's amazing how far she's come over those, actually it's 22 years, but so many things that she couldn't do that she now does. And then on the emotional side, try and find your new normal. What is new and normal for you? And I have to say this, that for me, I would try and look forward rather than back. I think, I'll be honest, we made a mistake. We tried to get Sandra back to how she was. And it was all about stopping her epilepsy, getting her memory back, stopping her tremors, making her less tired. Instead of working from where we are and looking forward, we tried too hard to get back to where we were rather than saying, this is where we are. Every step further forward, every step that we take is a positive step. And I think we because you're always going to be disappointed. You're never going to be like you were, or it's unlikely you're going to be like you were. Sandra is not going to be like she was. But to be honest, beforehand, she could be difficult. She wasn't perfect. She was okay, but she wasn't perfect. So, trying to go back to how you were is an interesting thing. And the other point I would make, and I sort of made it, is it's amazing how many little small steps you take. So, for instance, Sandra wouldn't go on a bus. She now goes on a bus. Sandra goes to a bars on her own. She would never do that before. She's quite happy to meet people. And it does take time, but there are some positives that will come with time. And it's easy for me to say here, stand here saying that after 22 years, but it is true. Right, last slide, promise. It's a journey. It is a journey. Certainly at the beginning, we had a lot of long, dark tunnels where you really struggled to see the light at the end of them. But there was. And now we still have tunnels. We still have dark tunnels. They're shorter. They happen less often, but they are there. And I know I could be standing here today saying, I'm Graham Niven, my wife died 22 years ago. But because of the fantastic work of the Encephalitis Society raising awareness, and because a doctor who I never met diagnosed suspected encephalitis, I've actually been able to share this journey with Sandra. And for that, I'm exceptionally grateful. Thank you.